everybody. It's your boy, the Versace Stoner. We have another episode of VSW Podcast tonight. We have a very special guest, the one and only, the Bionic Bull, Dan Bidondi. Welcome,
what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Oh, look at that. 2 belts.
Yep.
What are you holding there?
United States champ.
What promotions are those from?
Independent wrestling and also American Wrestling League, AWL.
Very nice. Very nice, you know. It takes something to become a champion, you know. It takes you gotta, you know, it takes a lot in the industry. You gotta make your mark and go for it, you know.
You know what pisses me off for a lot of the wrestlers, right? Like, oh, the belt's just another weight in your bag. And if you believe that, you shouldn't be in the business, because we all grew up. I grew up watching Hulk Hogan come down the ring with this big shiny belt. That's what sold me in the business, you know what I mean? And that's what your dream is, to come down. We understand how wrestling is, but still, that's what got you in the business. That's your dream, to come down to represent the company as a champion, you know what I'm saying? And if you don't have that dream, I mean, to me, you shouldn't be in the business, you know what I mean? And it's not just a weight in your bag. It's, you know, because the company itself is trusting you to carry the company, trusting you to be the face of the company, you know what I'm saying? And so
yeah, you're the face, you're the champ. You know, you're headlining whatever show, you're defending their title. You know, Hogan was WrestleMania. You know, when I grew up, he was all the WrestleManias up until 9, and even then he jumped in.
Yeah.
You know, and I know, you know, a lot of that stuff gets looked back at now, you know, and it's like, oh, it's cringy, and Hogan was cringy and this, but people don't get it. As a kid growing up, being whatever age, you fell hard for that shit. You know, that at that time and age, America was the thing. You know, you said your Pledge of Allegiance in class. You did all the stuff he said. He was the dream. The American dream was holding the title. Like, he was that person that people looked up to at that time.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's what got me into the business. You know what I mean? Like, this is a thing that's larger than life. The guys were larger than life too. And I went to the Prowder Civic Center to watch the shows, and I was like just in awe the whole time, you know, just everything about it. And that's when I, decided I want to be a professional wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, with the 2 titles there, you look like a young King Kong Bundy.
Yeah, thanks. He used to call me his son.
He is one of the guys. He's one of the guys that got me. You know, that match, I saw it. Yep. I happened to catch WrestleMania 2, the ending of that part of it on TV, and I saw Hulk Hogan against this larger-than-life, you know, King Kong Bundy in a cage. And, you know, being a small kid, I'm like, what is this? This is awesome.
That was insane. Yeah, I remember that WrestleMania 2. That was insane.
You know, and I just fell hard for it. I was like, I can't get enough of it. And, you know, as you grew up, I knew people would say it's fake, and it would just be like, I don't really care what you're saying. I understand that, but it's like, movies are fake. Other entertainment is fake too. We don't talk about it. It's just what it is. You know, every time there's a new X-Men movie, you know, released, nobody goes, well, it's fake. No, they just play along with the plot.
Yeah.
And that's just how I looked at wrestling. So, you know, you grew up watching these, you know, great wrestlers. You know, I believe that, you know, the golden age of wrestling, that era, it's amazing. So many, you know, like you said, larger-than-life stars, and it brought in media. It brought in, you know, media personalities, musicians. You know, the early musicians for the WrestleManias. You know, you had Aretha Franklin singing, and all these like legends. If you go back and actually watch these, you know, shows. You got in, you know, you saw that, you got into it. Did you find a school? How'd you get into like the transition from like watching to like wrestling?
Well, believe it or not, I wrestled in high school for 4 years, and so it was my senior year, and we just got done with the state championship, and I forgot we went to some carnival or something going on, and it was this guy Peter. He was advertising for a Yankee Pro Wrestling show, and so I come across him. I was like, hey, how do I be a wrestler? You know what I mean? Something I wanted to do. So he gave me the information. I called, and at the time it was at the PA Hall in the Fall River, and I talked to Joe Eugenio and Savannah Souza. They're like, yeah, come on down. You know, we'll walk you through. You know, let you know how much it is and all that. So I went up there, me and my cousin, and I started training, and got hooked ever since. And it was a great ride. And I started training like not even out of high school yet. And I had my first match in May, which coming up this May is going to be 30 years for me in the business. So my first match was a Battle Royal in Paul Luzon. singles match with Paul Lozon.
So they just kind of took you in, kind of showed you the ropes, and just kind of put you to work and just made you as you went along.
Yeah, basically when I first started the training, I was going like at least 5 days a week and just putting tons of work in. I was already in shape because I just senior year captain of the high school wrestling team, state champion. You know what I mean? So I was already in tip top shape. So it was a point of acclimating to that kind of wrestling. You know what I mean? And which me being a mock all my life, when I was younger, we had these little backyard leagues and everything else. I adapted to it real quick, and so I picked up on everything very quick, and so. Long before, like 3-4 months later, they said we got a show in the Pal Hall in New Bedford. I'm sorry, Fall River. And at my first show, there was a battle royal. I was the bird, you know what I mean? Got my ass chopped, lit up like a Christmas tree. Then I had my singles match with Paul Lozon, and it went over good. So ever since then, it was like about 4 or 5 years straight just wrestling for Yankee Pro Wrestling.
Oh wow!
And
And
we were
that
doing tons of shows, man, like 2-3 shows a week sometime. And we got insane. Like we were doing a lot of shows with Yankee.
yeah, I mean that was a premier promotion out in that area at the time. I know a few other guys that worked there. Rob Roberts worked there for a
Yep.
while. Did you run into him out there at that
Yeah.
time?
Yep.
Yeah. And then at some point it got changed hands, and now it's what is it? Showcase now, right?
Oh, Top Rope Promotions.
Top rope,
Steve.
top rope. Yeah, it's now on top rope, and but I still know a lot of guys and girls that still will call it the Yankee Pro. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to Yankee Pro. I'm like, oh cool. But the heritage of that hall itself and just everything that's gone through there, that Pal Hall is just amazing.
Yeah, it is.
You get chills kind of going in there,
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of memories in that place. We were doing TV tapings, and it was great. Wrestling 4 or 5 times in one day because we're trying to videotape the whole month for the cable access. And it was great. We had battle royals, and I did a double gimmick at the time. I was the All American Dan Bidondi, and then I was Storm. It was a mask gimmick guy. It was a jobber gimmick, and so I was as soon as I get in the dressing room, I'm changing outfits and everything else, and getting ready for the next match as I'm working the match out with the other guy. So it was fun because, and especially being young, you feel like you're important because like to be used that much time in the TV tape, it's amazing. Even now, it's pretty cool, for them to trust you to do that. So I was doing multiple gimmicks, and I was like in that ring all the time. It was great.
You really put in the work and really put in the effort. And I mean, obviously, that's what it takes. I mean, that's what it takes in the industry. You really can't half-ass the industry. You can try, but it's going to eventually kind of catch up to you one way or the other.
Yep.
So you were working Yankee Pro. Then did you kind of just branch out and just start taking bookings everywhere that you could, or?
Yeah, because I was told, oh, you stay with us, you go, you get somewhere. So I met Anthony Rufo, and so he's like, hey, why don't you come work a show? It's like literally like 2 towns away from me. Instead of going, because I lived in Central Falls, Rhode Island at the time, I was going out to New Bedford, Fall River, all over Massachusetts, and the show was literally in Pawtucket, 1 town for me. I'm sorry, and I'm like, yeah, why not? So and I said, I'm not in the contract, you know what I mean? And so I did a show for them, UCW, and I started doing more shows with them. So I was doing shows with both at the time. Then it was some like BS that went on, and I didn't remember what the heck it was about. But I ended up going with UCW. Then we just, it was crazy after that. Went from UCW, and we were renting the ring out because my cousin, Mr. Biggs, and Anthony Rufo, they went in half on a ring, and we would do ring rentals. And at the same time, I was wrestling for the shows there, and I ended up working for, I think it was 13, 14 promotions at once. And we were taking bookings out in Orlando, Maryland. We were all over the place. It was great. And I just remember sleeping in the U-Haul half the time, or like some cheap hotel, whatever. But we had a lot of fun. A lot of shows and a lot of memories.
That's awesome, though, and to be able to just go out and kind of just explore and not just be the goal. How far can we do this? Unfortunately, I feel like today, everybody, it's not as easy. The cost to do such a task is almost like taking your whole family on vacation. But before you could just hop in the car. We're going to go to the Midwest for a weekend or two. Let's see what's out there. We're going to try to get booked, and, it'll be a couple of $100. Now it's like thousands, but The only other good thing I can say is though now today you got the power of the internet to kind of showcase all. You can say, hey, watch my match here. You don't have to
Yeah,
physically be in person. But
yeah,
still, though, going through all the different places, you learn something. You see different styles of wrestling. You see different territories, how things are run different. Because New England's run very different than other
yeah.
areas.
Oh yeah. And what helped us a lot because we just carpooled. We all jammed in the car or one truck, whatever. And plus renting the ring out, I was getting paid to do the ring, and also the promotion would pay me to do the show. So I was actually making money, and I didn't really have to spend nothing. And because the company money went into the vehicle, so I didn't have to pay for gas or nothing. It was great. So I was just along for the ride, and we just doing shows left and right everywhere. I basically got on tour. I mean, I was home like 2-3 days a week, and we were on the road somewhere and do one show, we're packing the ring up, going to the next place, and we were just, and if it wasn't just the ring rentals, we were just taking bookings everywhere. It was a good time. This went on for years, and it was pretty awesome.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Like I said, you gotta love it. Was there any big names you kind of fought out there while you were traveling and doing that?
Oh yeah,
Any notable?
Buddhist Beefcake, when Jimmy Snuka, Tito Santana, Greg Valentine, Rick Martel, those guys, and all that, and some of the
Okay.
guys now who are famous. You know what I mean? And working with them with Todd Hansen, he's a Viking Raider now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just Kenny Dykstra, just all those guys that were up at that time. And so it was just like ran to so many different people. And
You got like a good mix. You kind of got that older generation that were kind of getting on their way out, and then you got the newer generation that were
yep,
on their way up. And
yeah,
you were getting the both the best worlds, getting to work everybody, soaking all that knowledge in. Because that's what it is. I feel like every locker room, if you want to treat it right, it's like a library. So it's filled with knowledge. Every wrestler book, you can
yep.
learn something.
Yeah, I had a
Um,
lot of good conversations with Virgil. Me and him used to talk a lot. Him and also Jimmy Snuka, Tony Atlas, and of course King Kong Bundy. And it's like I just like learned, like just shut my mouth and listen to what they had to say, and just enjoyed it. What I mean, it was great. Good people, man.
it is, and I'll be honest, I was kind of dumbfounded later on in life because as a kid, you watch these people. I grew up, like I said,
Yeah,
watching that. I would see people like, George the Animal Steel, total savage, come out, rip the turnbuckle. You'd see people like Kamala, total, savage, just coming out. It dumbfounded me later that these people were actually like something else, that they actually, weren't a Gundan Giants. Kayfabe hit me hard as a kid. So, like, when I saw them do interviews later on in life and talk normal, I was just like, oh wow, you can do that. Like I always imagined these were us. What I saw on TV, I figured that's what I would see always.
yeah,
But a lot of them are really nice guys and they're human, just like you and I, talking. King Kong Bundy, I heard a lot of people, say he was just somebody that you could just go and talk to and chill with and talk. He was a
yeah.
good listener and a good person. And a lot of those guys and girls were, and even like George Mosier, he was like a school teacher.
Hmm.
Who would ever thought, he'd be in the ring ripping the turnbuckle, but yeah, he was, one of the gentlest people teaching children. And that's the beauty of pro wrestling. You can kind of be
Yeah.
who you want to be, in that ring. You don't have to be the person you are outside the ring.
Yeah, I was like at first I got starstruck when I first started working the big shows. I remember I was at a big show. I forgot where it was. This was Yankee Pro Wrestling, and I had like 101-degree temperature. I had the flu, and I still did the show. So I'm sitting in the locker room and I got a towel on my head, sipping water, and I heard somebody's like, "Oh, brother, you all right?" And so I look up and there's both Demolition. There's Greg Valentine. I'm like, it's just like, hey, what's up? Because the first time I seen him in real life, I used to watch these guys on TV all the time, and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good.
Now you're in the locker room. You're like, oh yeah, I'm great. Nothing
Yeah,
wrong here. Oh, that's great though.
yeah. I heard voices next to me because I'm just like sitting there on the bleaching thing, whatever, just soaking up water and all that. I just got done with my match too, and he's like, yeah, you're all right, brother. Like you got Axe's graspy voice. I'm like, oh shoot.
Oh man, the memories though. I mean, those guys are great, and like I said,
Yeah,
just that whole generation of wrestlers, it's still something I can watch today. And still say, hey, that entertains me. Not all wrestling does that. There's certain eras of wrestling stopped entertaining me. especially the, like, I don't know, this 2005 on. So like 2005 to 2017, I really didn't like what I saw on TV, but that old 80s stuff I could watch all day long because
Yeah,
guys just came out and were just a different breed of wrestling. And let me
yeah.
ask you, like you've been in the business now 30 years, and that's consecutively, no time off, no lengthy
It was a
break.
couple of times. It took like 2 years off or whatever, 2 3 years, and got involved with the media for a while, and I wasn't able to wrestle, and made some good money doing that, and then I missed it bad. Yeah, really missed it, and so I stopped doing that, and I'm like, I want to get back in the business, so let me get in shape first, and I got back in the gym, hardcore, then got back into the business again. But it was a couple of times. It was like took 6 months off, whatever, just to recover and all that good stuff, And after
Yeah,
my
but no
title run,
like 10-year lengthy breaks. It was pretty, you were involved, you were there, just that kind of, like you said, the stint.
yeah.
You know, how has it changed, since you first walked into a locker room to the locker rooms today?
I just gotta say no disrespect to the small guys because I would believe it or not. I mean, I weigh 315 right now. When I first started, I was about 209 pounds, and I was a cruiserweight, and so I know how it is. You know what I mean? You gotta especially at that time, the big men. I mean, if you were big, you would just get over by your size. You know what I mean? And I was always told back then that it's a big in the upper cards and all that heavyweight titles. You need to put on some weight and muscle. You know what I mean? So at the time, I'm this little skinny 209 pound guy. You know what I mean? And believe it or not, and what I'm trying to say is how it changed. Back then, you had to be like a monster to have heavyweight title and all that stuff to even be looked at for that. Now today, you got promotions putting heavyweight championships on guys that are 210 pounds. You know what I mean? And I come from the old school. You know what I mean? And with Savannah Souza, Mr. Fuji, and all them. You know what I mean? And that's how it was back then. I mean, you wouldn't get no heavyweight title if you're 5'10", 200 pounds, you know what I'm saying? And so me and Jimmy Jack Cash, we went up the same way. Both of us started off as small guys. I'm like, we want to get the uppercuts. So we started hitting the gym, put on some muscle, and 100 pounds later, whatever the case. And then we're, winning heavyweight titles and all that. Then the business just started shifting to more like, all right, you just grow your hair out. You could be a skinny guy, just grow your hair out, and whatever the case. And we're gonna put a heavyweight title on you. So now it's like, but I'm not trying to disgrace anybody that's some small guy because I know how it was. Because back then, when I first started as a small guy, you had to prove yourself more than a big guy, big time. So I went to a new promotion.
Well, yeah, you had to have more, like you said. You had to be more than just. If you were big, you could be over, or they could
yeah.
work with you. If you were little, you had to be a damn good character.
Well, yeah.
And I know firsthand. When I was out of high school, I wanted to be a wrestler. ECW was thriving, things were looking good. Wrestling has always been a passion of mine. I tried. I went to a school, went down to Kowalski School, and here I come in, 5'8", 140 pounds, skinny like a twig. And he's like, with all due respect, sir, you're not a pro wrestler type. I'm not going to take your money. I'm not going to train you. And they were like, I'm not a wrestling type. And I just figured, well, I'm not a wrestling type. I tried, and I didn't take it as anything negative because had I tried to go out for the NBA, I wasn't tall. I wasn't able to play for basketball. So I just took it as that. My body wasn't made for pro wrestling. I learned that I could box. Boxing was cool because boxing was by weight class. So you could kind of go into that. So I did that for a little bit. But now if I was to walk in, I could walk into any school anywhere and be like, hey, I want to be a trained pro wrestler. And they're like, sure. Sign right up. There you go. And that height, that size, it doesn't really matter. They'll work with almost anybody because they are putting titles on people that are, back in the day would be only considered for an IC title, a mid-card title.
Yep.
There was a real class distinction from, watching wrestling when I was a kid in WWE. There was the IC division and the heavyweight division. In the heavyweight division, you only had people like Hulk Hogan, King Kong Bundy, Andre the Giant, Ultimate Warrior, Macho King. And in the IC, you would have the Honky Tonk Man, Bret Hart later. And Bret Hart, he's one of the guys that kind of went from one division to the next. But you would have these guys that weren't as big, weren't as physically big, and as mentally big. Then at some point in wrestling, it kind of all changed. The little guy started getting titles. You had cruiserweight divisions, and the cruiserweight division was fine, but then you started having cruiserweights win world heavyweight titles, and it always blew my mind. It's like, but they're not a heavyweight. How are they
Yeah.
winning a heavyweight? What's the division for then?
Yeah, exactly. And today, the cruiserweight division is useless. I had several cruiserweight titles when I was younger. Yeah, being small, we had a lot of cruiserweight titles, light heavyweight titles, tag team championships, stuff like that. The small, low card titles and all that stuff. But man, now today it's like there's no point in even having a cruiserweight division because they're putting like Rey Mysterio. He won the best, but how many times he was your world heavyweight champion? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, he's one of those guys, and it's just like, okay, if you see him with the belt, like that's cool. Congrats, but that's not heavyweight. How do you get into that division?
Yeah.
If that was boxing, that would never be allowed. The commission would be like, you're not a heavyweight, sit down. So I think like at some point they switched it over. They tried to make it sporty and keep it sporty, and then it was just like, okay, whatever sells, whatever the hell it is, it is. And I kind of liked it when it was more like sporty. There was a little bit of like, if you wanted to be in the heavyweight division, you also had to prove yourself. You had to be a good IC champion. There was only very few guys that were able to just bounce over instantly. Hogan being one of them, he never had a fight for the IC. Andre never had a fight. But, people like Bret Hart and stuff, they had to prove themselves year after year as an IC champion. Same thing, Ultimate Warrior.
Yep.
When he fought Hogan, he was IC champion. He had to prove himself to get to the world title point. You had to be a good IC champion, hold it at least once. There was rules. It seems like today it doesn't matter. You come in, if you're over, you can go for any title anytime. Whatever it might be. Wrestling's really kind of changed in a lot of ways. Some good, some worse. It's such a subjective sport that there's something in it for everybody to like, and just like, I try not to get caught up. The demographic for wrestling is kind of, the fans are just, they can really just tear it down.
Yeah. Like WWE, they got a character for everybody. It's like you look through the whole roster, like there's somebody that appeals to somebody, even if they're not a wrestling fan. I'm like, oh, kind of like him or her, and so that's what keeps WWE on top. They always have characters that appeal to the public and the audience and everything.
They do, and then, you still got the haters even on that, but I tell them, I tell anybody that, shits on WWE actively, you can say what you want about the current product, and you can say whatever you want about the last 20 years, 30 years, but even if they stopped running right now, they would make enough money off their heritage, more than we'll ever see.
Yeah.
Because they have a dynasty of great wrestling. They could put out bullshit every week. It doesn't really matter. They've already done greatness. And they're making money still off of that. They still have all these archives. They're making money off of merchandise. They're still making money off names. Trademarks. It's a business. It doesn't have to. They don't need to be outstanding every single minute, and they don't need to appease every person anymore. In the beginning, they did, and they tried. Believe me, WrestleMania 1, 2, 3, they tried to get everybody's attention. Especially WrestleMania 3, that was the grandest of all.
It was badass.
They dragged everybody, but that was the biggest thing. Hogan versus Andre. Andre was this. You'll never see anybody like Andre the Giant again.
And the size of the guys back then, even like back then, Ted DiBiase looked small back then. But if you look at him now, even now in his age, he's still bigger than most wrestlers today. Bruce Beefcake, he's big. And like you look at all these old guys that look small on TV compared to Hogan and all that, but still they're like massive compared to the stars today.
And I think there was an expectation of, muscularity. You had to have a certain muscle mass if you were going to be shown on TV for WWF. And I remember there was no real like guys that kind of hacked it in the 80s. You had to look the part.
Yeah.
Or you were a jobber. The jobbers were jobbers. But the 90s thing kind of shifted a little bit. ECW came around. It was almost like a working class wrestling where you had, guys and girls coming out that were wearing, regular clothes, dungaree jeans. People weren't starting to look so much like wrestlers. They were starting to look like ordinary people. WWE did it for a little bit. Even Stone Cold, he didn't really wear, when he was running around, sometimes he was just wrestling in jeans and cutoffs.
Yeah.
But But a lot of things, like I said, it's just kind of transcended. Now today we're in an era where gear is more important. People, they're
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, they pride themselves on having gear, and if you don't have the gear, it's like, well, you're not really doing it. Where, like I
Well, that's
said,
how I
years
came
ago,
up too. I mean, like like Dave Souza and all that. And then when I went for UCW and all that stuff, I got further training from Anthony Rufo and Gino Martino. So they help advance, and also outpatient as well. So they help advance my training. That's why I fitted into New World Wrestling and all that. But yeah, they were like very strict with the gear. You had to look the part. You had to look like a wrestler, not just some crumb off the street wearing some baggy jeans. You know what I mean? Like they frowned upon it at the time. Especially Jimmy for New World Wrestling at the time. He had a thing for the big guys. You know what I mean? And so when New World Wrestling first started for a while, I mean, like it was full of those big guys. Me, Jimmy Jack Cash, was Mr. 305. You had Giant Pharaoh, which is a big business now. You know what I mean? You had monsters in that ring. You know what I mean? And like I said, the times change and all that stuff, and it dwells to the small guys and everything. So, which is good for them because again, I remember being a small guy hoping I got a break too. You know what I mean? And so it's a lot of opportunity in the business, but yeah, it's very competitive now too. I noticed that. And back
would
then
you
too, it
say it's
was.
competitive because there's more out there. There's more promotions running probably than ever. There's more wrestling than ever. Um, and you're still active today. You work at Showcase. You
Yep.
work with them. That's out in Woonsocket. Is that right over
Yeah,
there?
that centers in one socket.
And then they do shows all throughout. I know that.
Yeah,
And then you
we
do the
chose the most.
AW. Yeah, and then you do the AWL Maniac
Yep,
Mike's promotion.
yep.
That's a good
AWO.
promotion.
I just started working for USWF
Oh,
with
okay.
Broadway Joe, and I also I'm going to be working with I think it's Slam Time Pro Wrestling, whatever. That's out in Indiana. So a friend of mine runs the business, so the promotion out there. So they're going to fly me out in June to do my debut out there. So
Well,
pretty
that's
awesome.
pretty fun. That's something different.
Yeah. It's funny
So,
when I first got back into wrestling, I was like, I just want to work for one promotion. I don't want to get all wrapped up into it again. I started with Blackhawk there, for the showcase, and all
yeah.
of a sudden, no, do a show here, and now I'm working for four promotions now.
No, yeah, yeah, definitely. But it gets like that because once it gets you back, it got you
Yeah,
back. And you get
yeah,
into it, you start running with it, and I mean, you're holding gold. You can't just walk away now.
yeah,
um, I've seen you, like I said, I've seen you at some of the showcase stuff. I've seen you at AWL. I like Maniac Mike. He runs a good thing over there. At least, he tries to anyways.
yeah. That's
Um,
why I started with Maniac Mike because what an awesome guy. He's got a brilliant mind for the business, but he's a nice guy. People take advantage of it. So me and Dino Angel the Icon came in to help him out to be enforcers, help out in the locker room so he doesn't get pushed around. And he would set a card up and people just did what they wanted. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
we
yeah.
came.
I mean, I witnessed it because I used to run, SUC, and I used to run behind them. And I was helping one of the other guys there, and we used to do a show, and they would run the mid. There was a morning show. And then we were the afternoon show, and then AWL was the evening show. And you had in indie wrestling, everybody works everywhere, so you'd
Yeah,
have guys working all three shows, and by the end of the night, everybody was tired. Nobody wanted to work a third show. And Paul, Mike, you're already front of the Billy sitting there. People are taking their sweet time, and it's like,
yep,
come on, you signed up for this,
yeah,
you know. It is, and like I say, there's different tiers of wrestling. There's something in wrestling for every. Is it your premier promotion? No, but it's a starting point, and it's also a
yeah,
point for people that haven't been in the industry for a minute to kind of get back into it without
yeah,
having to break their back and wallet.
yeah. Exactly. And he rents Chris Blackheart's gym there, for the shows and all that
Yeah, and
stuff.
you're giving back to the industry, so it's like you're renting from a complete stranger. And I said, I mean, the setup there is nice. To do cool tapings, and
Yeah,
there's a lot you can do with it. And it's affordable. Like I said, you don't have to break your bank because some of the stuff, wrestling's gotten expensive. Some schools very pricey now to go to. You're talking they want thousands of dollars up front
yep,
and all this. And back in the day, it wasn't so pricey. So I feel like that kind of puts people off a little bit. and it hasn't taken shortcuts. You know what I mean? And that's not something you want to see.
And a shameless
And
plug for Black Cotton Showcase. If you want to put on a show and you want to rent the ring and all that, the thing is, you just go to the school. The chairs are already set up. The entrance is already set up. Everything's set up. You don't have to take nothing down, set nothing up. You go there, pay to rent the gym, do your show, and you're out of there. It's beautiful. You know what I mean? And because, like I said, I did ring crew for God knows how long, and you know what I mean. So we had to set up the chairs, everything. You know what I mean? And it's hours on end. But if you just want to do a show with no BS, go rent a school out from Chris Blackhart. And I mean, and the thing about Chris Blackhart, I love the guy, man. I remember him all the way back from the 90s. You know what I mean? So Chris Blackhart is probably one of the most genuine persons out there, the promoters, I should say, because he has no problem, like we do the showcase pod and everything, right? He has no problem having another promotion promote through him and everything else. He is like a wide open person to other promotions, and he actually goes out of his way to help other promotions because he believes that we all should stick together, which is true. I mean, even though we compete against each other, different leagues, whatever, but you know, what I mean, we're all in the same team. We all should have each other's back too, and that's what Chris.
everybody, y'all got the same fan pool basically. So,
Yeah,
and there's no reason to divide fans when they can go to multiple shows and everybody can make money.
Yep.
There's enough people for everybody to succeed.
Yeah.
In this industry, as much as the competitive gets, I hate to see it because it doesn't hurt the wrestlers, it doesn't hurt the promoters, it hurts the fans because they're like, well, where am I supposed to go?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to support now? Which side am I on? It's like, forget all that. Just there's enough to go to every show, support everything. If you don't get to one this month, go to that one next month.
Yeah.
Vice versa. Sometimes they do, unfortunately, shows do run, same night. That's untenable. There's only 4 weekends in the month. There's how many promotions, but you try to just do what you can. And I try to, I personally try to support the whole industry, try to get to as many as I can get to. It's been a little slow this year just because, family and everything. But, IWTV, great asset. You can watch them right at home. And, you can still support by, subscribing. You can still buy merch from people. You can still do all that, stuff online. So, you're active in Showcase. You're active there. You're on your way out there. What do you do to stay, so active? Do you train every day? Do you?
Yeah, I'm a powerlifter. I plan on competing probably at the end of this year, next year. I had a little setback because I got sick for a couple of months with the flu and pneumonia and all that garbage. But yeah, I'm a powerlifter, and I want to actually compete for a while and see how that goes. You know what I mean? But and I think that's important with the wrestling too, staying strong, staying in shape, and all that stuff. Even though I got a little chubbiness on my stomach, but I got tons of power and all that, and it helps pay off in the ring, man. Because and it's so cool because when you can press somebody, a big man, right, that nobody should even be able to pick up. When you can pick somebody up like that and slam them in the ring, and the whole crowd just pops, and you see the looks on people's faces like an awe, like how the hell did he just lift that guy, or do that, suplex or whatever the case. You know what I mean? So, and that's why I encourage people all the time in the professional wrestling business, get in the gym. In the gym, well, there's a lot of benefits in the gym that it pays off in the ring too, because you look this part, you feel the part and you act the part, and so it's when when you're able to slam a 500-pound guy, and the whole place just pops, jumps off the seats. That's worth it on its own.
Yeah, and and like you said, it's one thing you can slam the guy, and then they can see you in the gym, doing the 500 press. It's like, oh wait a minute, this dude, he's really doing this shit. He's not just, it's not smoke and mirrors. This guy, he's got weight. He's working out. I think that's why Hogan was so sellable. He, looked muscular. You would see him doing other things besides wrestling, be like, oh shit, he's strong.
Yeah.
And adding all in it adds to that mystique of what, a wrestler is. They're this larger than life wrestler.
Growing up watching those guys,
like
even Don Morocco and all that, they're all those guys were in shape. Warlord, Hogan, Warrior, and I'm like, wow. So at a young age, I started hitting the gym and everything else, and I didn't know how to put on size back then, but I was still at the gym, because they encouraged me to get my ass in the gym and just try to look like a wrestler. And when I first started wrestling, like I said, I was a 200-pound cruiserweight, whatever. Then I meet people in the streets and like, oh, you're not a wrestler, you don't look like one. You know what I mean? So that got to me, and I'm like, all right. And So I'm like, I'm going to work my ass off and I'm going to put on some weight. I want to look. The thing is, I want to not just be a wrestler. I want to look like the wrestler. I want to, when somebody sees you coming down the street, they're like, this guy's either a football player or a wrestler. You know what I mean? That was my mentality. So I started hitting the gym, putting on weight and everything else. And, at the time I did steroids too, which was stupid. I took some Dianabol and all that just to gain some size and everything. And I don't recommend people to do that, but it was a dumb thing to do. But I was that obsessed to actually look like a wrestler. Not just like the skinny 200-pound kid. I wanted to look like a wrestler. And, it paid off.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, roids are no good for anybody,
Yeah.
but at some point down the line, wrestling was very almost synonymous with it. You
Yep.
have people like Lex Luger going out there with just incredible muscles, and it's like, this is what they're looking for. Okay, everybody, let's do it. But I think since all those guys, we've talked about and you've worked and stuff, I think a lot of guys today now take the health aspect a little bit more serious. They're not as party animals as they once were. They're not doing drugs in the back room. They're not doing the roids. It's not doing stuff as hard on their body. They're trying to eat a little bit better. So that, they are living longer than, unfortunately, a lot of the guys, we've lost a lot of wrestlers.
Back then they didn't have the creatines and the glutamines and the supplements they got today. I mean, you don't need steroids. I mean, I got my size. Like right now, I can honestly say I am stronger than I ever was in my life. Even when I was like all juiced up on steroids, I am 10 times stronger than that. And it's all natural. You know what I mean? I've been it's all natural foods, a lot of protein and all that stuff. And the supplements they have today, I wish to God they had them back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that pure creatine. I mean, that can do a lot, but you don't need all this other stuff. And if you do it right in conjunction with the right exercises, and, the right whatever, if even the right energy drinks and stuff, if you do it the right way with whatever you're working with, you'll lose the fat, you lose the mass, you keep the muscle. There's a lot more that you can do today. It's much more of a science, and I think it's taught a lot more. Where back then nobody had any idea what the hell they were doing. They were like, "Let's just get as big as possible," and they didn't realize with that the way they were doing it was causing heart attacks. It was causing all these other issues.
Even now, I'm still learning techniques and all that because, like in the powerlifting competitions, there's bench press, deadlifts, and squats, and I'm still learning different techniques and all that because it's a science. So it's literally a science that you got the way you hold the bar, the breathing, everything is going to, the leg drive, all that stuff is going to be all in sync with each other at the same time to get a good lift.
Yeah, and I think again I think a lot of people forget there is a physicality part of wrestling. It's more than just knowing how to do the ring.
Yep.
You have to, be able to have the stamina to put on the match. You have to be able to work a 20, 30-minute match and not be out of breath or blown out. And you have to be able to do at least, some of the basic moves with ease and not look like you're, gassed trying to do them.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes you see people just want to do the in-ring fun shit. It's like nobody wants to go and train, and nobody wants to go to the gym and lift, or do the cardio even. I used to see it in boxing too. Nobody, they want to do the mitts and shit all day. And it's like, okay, your technique is awesome, but in 3 minutes, 3 minutes, it's gonna go very fast, and your lungs are gonna be expanded out. And you're not gonna be able to do much after the first 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, cardio is like the most important thing, and weightlifting training. Getting in the gym, the regular gym and also the wrestling gym. It's always good to keep up with, your techniques and everything, everything you do, because you can get rusty real quick, and one mess up in the ring, that, man. One mess up in the ring could be literally life or death. I've seen, like literally in the ring, people die. Chief Jay Fox, I had a triple threat with him. Me, him, and Sonny D and UCW. I guess he wasn't supposed to be wrestling. We didn't know that until afterwards. So we get in the locker room, and he's like, I'm sitting there talking to him, we're getting our boots off and all that. He looks at me, and he goes face first into the floor, and he died of a massive heart attack. Then you had the spider thing and everything else. I was right there for that. And there's other incidents too, but it's just like one little mistake, one little messed up, or whatever the case, or a health problem. I mean, they can literally cost you your life. So even me being in the business for like 30 years, I mean, I'm still Still trying to learn things, still trying to perfect my techniques and everything else. Still trying to get that learning and wrestling and everything else. I need to, advance my character because what I like to say is the day you stop becoming a student is the day you should retire.
Yeah, and I mean it's like any other industry. I was trying to tell someone earlier, like
Yeah.
I got into graphics and web design, or in '98, let's say. If I never learned any more than what I learned in '98, and I never updated any of my software or any of my stuff, and just did what I was based on '98,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be relevant anymore in any graphic design industry. I would not be. And it's the same with wrestling. It's the same with anything. You got to kind of keep up with the training,
Yep.
keep up with what's going on, keep up with the times, make sure that whatever the codes might be, if there is any, depending on what state you work. But most importantly, keeping up with the training aspect, making sure you're not rusted every time you get in there. Keeping up with that physicality. You might only if you're working 4 matches a year, let's say that's the schedule you want. Cool, but at least start training a couple months or a month and a half or 2 months before the match, like a boxer would. Boxers don't just jump in the ring. They start training a couple months out. They'll take time off, do nothing, veg out, maybe light workouts. And then when it's time for a fight, they'll start ramping it up. Night before, they'll deprive themselves of all fluids, get the weight real low. And then the next day, they'll be like bouncing back 20 pounds in water weight. But that's how boxing does it. It's kind of funny. I've seen, I never did pro boxing. I did amateur, but on the pro level, they do the weigh-ins, and you'll see like the night before into the next night, 15-pound differences, and it's all just water.
It was like that in high school wrestling because we wrestled by weight class, and and I remember the state tournaments were there like 5 a.m. at the state championships or whatever, and everybody's like running in the bathroom to take a shit to try to lose weight, that 1 extra pound to make weight for the weight class, whatever, whatever the case. And so you're so out of energy before the thing starts. So you do the weigh-in, then right away you try to suck down after you weigh in, suck down as much carbs as you can and calories now to get your energy back. And so it was tough to make weight. That's before I was a heavyweight. I was 189. Then I went 215 in heavyweight afterwards. But it was it's a grind. A lot of people don't understand. Same thing with boxing. You have to really go above and beyond to make your weight class, and just to make the competition. Then in the competition, it's a whole new level altogether. It's
oh yeah, for sure. But like I told everybody, it's like something like 20, 30,000 minutes of training for every minute that you compete, because you have to be that ready. And like I said, once that bell rings, everything kind of goes out the window. Your mind goes blank, and it's like you're already gassed. You're already tired now mentally. So now you're just working off memory. What have I remembered to do in these situations? First things first, put your hands up, and everything becomes muscle memory. It's a blur.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the same is with pro wrestling. I've been in a few kind of matches. I think I was in one with you. We did a tag match, and it goes very fast. And if you're not with it, you don't know what you're not aware. You're out of it. You don't even know what the hell is going on.
Like Macho Wrestling for Showcase Wrestling. It's an annual show. It's like the WrestleMania Macho 17, which is last March. And I had no idea. I drew number 1, and it's like a Royal Rumble style elimination thing. I drew number 1, and all of a sudden, before I got thrown out, it was like close to 37 minutes I was in the ring. Yeah, and I didn't feel it till after I went into the locker room. Then like, oh man, I'm tired. But in the ring, because it's you just have fun.
You're all amped up, and the adrenaline's pumping. It's like high flying, but it's like, oh wait a minute, and people don't realize, 37 minutes in the ring, that's not that long. Actually, it is long. That's a very long time.
Yeah, because when I got home, I passed straight up.
I used to remember doing some of the boxing trainings and stuff, and be like, okay, this is going to be the real test. We got to get home before my legs turn to jelly. After you got a little grace period from working out, and then after everything starts to get so, I'm like, we got to drive home before that happens. It's going, because they would have us do like these team trainings. We'd do like 2-3 hours of training, doing sit-ups, push-ups.
Yeah, man, I took a little boxing. When I was a teenager, I took some boxing, and those rounds are people say it's only 2 minutes or whatever. That 2 minutes is a lifetime, man. When you're in a ring, you get thrown at your face. 30 seconds is a lifetime.
Oh
like 2 minutes
yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, you don't think about it, but like I said, you get tired just you're taking punches to your face. You don't get time to think. You just like everything's got to be
Yeah.
muscle memory. You
Yep.
got to know. You already know all what you're gonna do for the 2 minutes way before you even start.
Yeah. And at tournaments, man, it's like crazy. Like you get to a tournament and you weigh in and do all that stuff like I said earlier. Then when you do your first match, you win it, and all of a sudden, like it's an all day event. It's like you get there 4 or 5 in the morning to weigh in, and you're not out there till like 8, 9 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? And it's a long day, these tournaments, and it depends how far you go. And I remember winning some of these state tournaments and all that stuff, and it's like, wow, it's like all the people, the best wrestlers in the state to make it to the state tournament. Then at the end of the night, you're placing first or second, and when you first got there, there's hundreds of wrestlers everywhere, right? And for each weight class, then all of a sudden at the end of the night, it's like 2 or 4 left. Like that's it. You know what I mean? And it's a long, exhausting day, but you feel good because you remember getting in there. You're in a line of hundreds of people trying to compete, and you've lasted. You outlasted all those all those guys, and here you are at the final match. And it's a good feeling. It's well worth the payoff though. Because
Now, having that kind of real wrestling background and then pro wrestling, have you ever thought about doing like UFC style fighting and shoot fighting?
Yep. Yeah.
Jump.
Oh, I trained for it, but I never really got to, MMA stuff.
Yeah.
I just stuck with the wrestling and all that stuff because to me, I was like, if I want a longer career, I'll stick with the wrestling instead of getting beat up in UFC stuff,
Yeah. No, it's a whole different
There's a tournament coming up this weekend, this Saturday. It's a Road to the Gold for Showcase Pro Wrestling. So it's in Taunton, Massachusetts, and it's a tournament. And if whoever wins the tournament gets a shot at any title they want.
Oh, you were in the tournament yourself?
Yep. Yeah, it's me and Big Matt Matt Thompson. Yeah, me and Big Matt Thompson. So it's gonna be we're two of the biggest guys in the Fed right there. So we're gonna go at it, chop the hell out of each other, and see who wins.
That's what wrestling's about, though. You get the big guys to fight. You gotta love it.
And the cool thing is, I like to do what nobody else does because the average match you see people do 10 flips and all these fancy things. I like to keep old school. Just the ground and pound stuff, old school, and just do stuff that nobody's doing. You know what I mean? And I always like to take pride in that. Like my finisher, it's like I got that from a high school move. You know what I mean? And I amped it up to a professional wrestling move, and everything I try to do is be unique. You know what I mean? And in today's wrestling too, like you were saying earlier about how things have changed. Like back then, even when I was a cruiserweight, if you did a couple flips or whatever, or a moonsault, that was big. The crowd popped that. Now today, you do a moonsault, everybody's like, because you got these matches, they're flying 90 miles an hour all over the ring, 15 flips and all that stuff. They're getting hundreds of moves in one match. You know what I mean? And it doesn't give people the register.
And that's the other thing. Like back in the day, if you were a certain weight, a certain height, you kind of didn't go to the top rope. It was just like, it didn't seem logical. Now you'll have these big dudes doing the backflips onto the other guy. It's like, that's why people are like, it's like you got 300-pound dudes doing a backflip off the top. It's like, okay, well, how are you gonna top that?
Yeah, remember Vader, Big Vader?
I love him.
Doing a moonsault.
He was one of the best big men. He could do it, and he was very versatile. We were blessed with guys. I feel like our generation of wrestling to watch because we had people like him. Even Yokozuna, he could move. He was big, but he could move. And if you ever watch that documentary, it shows that he was very in the ring. He could move better than some of the younger kids that were a quarter of his size.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't until later that he had mobility issues.
Look at Todd Hansen. Viking Raiders. Ivar. Like he's like the heavy, almost 400, probably 350 or whatever. And, he can move like a cruiserweight, man.
Yeah, and these guys, they might be big, but they're still in good shape and they're still ready, and they're still willing to wrestle. It's great to see. And even back in the day, looking back, you had guys like that you wouldn't think were in shape, like Haystacks Calhoun. He didn't look in shape, but he was in shape enough to wrestle. You
Yeah.
know, he would go out there and could put on a match, and you would
Yep.
never. He didn't look like he was out of shape, breath, or anything like that. But
Yeah.
you
I
don't
think
get
it's
that.
impressive because that's so mean, man. I remember when I was a kid and I see like Vader do a moonsault. This guy was 400 freaking pounds and doing a moonsault off the top rope. I'm like, and now it's impressive when you see a small guy do it. But when you see a guy that shouldn't even be going to the top rope doing a moonsault, you're like, what? You know, and
That's what I'm saying.
it,
Like, how's this doing that? What? Like, oh my god! Like, and it's like, well, then you start thinking, well, wait, maybe I can do that. If he can do
yeah,
that, maybe I can, or maybe I can at least, do a frog splash or
yeah,
something. But it's inspiring though, and it's just great to see. But yeah, wrestling, like you said, it has changed. The big man is kind of the rarity now in wrestling. There's a
yeah.
lot of just average size. There's muscular. Don't get me wrong, there's great built guys, but not so much big,
Hmm.
like I said, like one man gang kind of guys. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Don't get a lot of that anymore.
Yeah, and it's like half the shows I go to, it's like normally, I mean, like the old school stuff, I should just be a regular sized guy, but I go to most of these shows and I'm like, if not the biggest or one of the biggest guys in the company, you know what I mean? And I'm like, this is not how I grew up in wrestling, you know what I mean? When I first started, Yankee Pro Wrestling, you had Big Daddy Kahuna, you had Rick Fuller, you had who else? Man, tons of just monsters in the ring. You know what I mean? Even the size I am now, nothing compared to them. You know what I mean? So
They were really big men, and
yeah,
you came in kind of average, and now you're kind of, just because of the way the size is, you're kind of a big man in wrestling.
yeah,
And not
yeah,
to mention, I mean, you put on muscle mass too, but
yeah.
just overall in height and size.
Mm.
But like I said, it's great to see that even after 30 years, you're still making new strides. Hitting new areas, hitting new heights. Still holding titles. What's the key to that kind of longevity? What do you do to kind of like keep
Just
yourself still motivated to do this?
number one, I had drinks here and there, but number one, I never got to the drugs, never got to the heavy drinking, stuff like that. And when my body needs a rest, I give it a rest. I know how to take time off and do therapeutics, I think it's called. Basically, the massage gun, like I'll hit the weights heavy, right? And if I get sore or something, I'll get the massage gun, the heat therapy stuff, and just really take care of my body. Focus on my body and all that stuff because a lot of wrestlers they just ignore it, and all of a sudden it becomes a small pain to a bigger pain. Next thing they're popping painkillers and all that stuff, and they ignore the problems. And like basketball, right? They always tell you to take care of your feet. A lot of people ignore that, and all of a sudden they have feet problems. You know what I mean? So I always try to do those small essential things, and also stay in shape in the gym somehow. We stay in shape in the gym, and just keep flexible, keep active, and it pays off. And again, rest is very important. You take the adequate rest you need, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. Sometimes I'll go hard for 3 months in the gym, and I'll take a whole week off. And I come back and I feel like, oh man, I'm probably going to lose some strength now. You come back and you're like a powerhouse, you know what I mean? And so there's nothing wrong with doing that. Always pay attention to your body, what it needs and everything else. And it'll keep you going. And the way I am right now, I still feel I got at least another 10 years in me, God willing.
That's great, though, and that's the other thing I think that's changed in wrestling. People are wrestling later and longer than ever. They're older. Ric Flair even older than most, but you've got people wrestling in their 40s, 50s, even 60s now, and
Yeah.
still having good careers out there. Some, once you get it, if you stay in that shape, you do the things you're saying, you keep up with it. You can still keep going.
Well, the
We've seen
guys,
some great people. I think I was at the show. Was it Fredo and Danger Boy there? They were
yep,
still going, and
yeah,
they're in their ages, they're up there, but they were, they look like a clean, crisp tag team on the indie scene.
yeah. And a lot of the
And
guys grew up with in the wrestling business and that are my age area that grew up wrestling with, and half of them just like they're like I look at them like, dude, what the hell happened? Because when I first got back to the wrestling again, oh, spring chicken, yell that all the time. Spring chicken, you gotta go easy. It's like no, it's like I'm not. Yeah, I'm not a young spring chicken, no, but I'm not dead. I'm only 49 years old. I still got a long life ahead of me. You know what I mean? It's like, and to me, age is nothing but a number, especially in the business. But you see guys that like 46, 45, whatever, and they look like they're already retired. You know what I mean? They're way
Yeah.
out of shape, and they got gray hair, and it's just like, what happened here? And they used to be like real good athletes in the ring and all that, and they just let themselves go. So it's just like I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else. I'm just saying, yeah, it's because I took care of myself. I already stayed with that longevity, take care of myself, try to eat good at least, and just do what you got to do to keep your body up because at the end of everything, your health is more important. So, and that's why a lot of people lose a savior. They lose that part of reality. Like, what am I going to do to keep myself healthy enough so I could run around my kids and someday my grandkids or something like that, and play football with them, whatever the case. And you got to look for the overall things, But a lot of people, they're too busy partying, and a lot of the guys I mentioned too, they the reason why they're like that for is because they're lazy, they don't want to go to the gym, and they got into the heavy drugs when they during those years, and they got to the heavy drink and the party and stuff. And it got to them. It paid a toll on them. You know what I mean? And so I'm glad, I made the right choices during that
Yeah,
time.
I mean, unfortunately, sometimes that life it comes with that rock star mentality,
Yeah,
and take it and they run with it, and then it grabs them, and it cuts them in. They cuts them in the chokehold per se, and there's nothing they can do, and they can't get out of it. And sometimes they don't. They die in there. We've
yeah,
seen it on wrestling. We've seen it in indie wrestling. A lot of that shit is no joke to play around with. Even once it can be deadly, never mind what it can do long term, because there's so much addictive shit out there.
yeah. Now I
Um,
understand some of them, like if you were, I guess, depends where you worked for, especially in the big leagues. I mean, like at the time, you didn't have days off. I mean, you were on the road all the time. And I can understand if you're getting addicted to painkillers. Not that it's an excuse, you know what I mean? Because we all know in the business, if you're not there, there's 1,000 other people that are going to replace you. You know what I mean? So that's when I first started. I mean, I didn't get to the drugs and all that, but at times I'm like, because I was in pain a lot. You know what I mean? And I'm like, painkiller does sound good, but I was like, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And
no,
because
I get it. I mean, people needed to get the energy. People was on the road every day. They might have done a little bit of blow. They might have done some other things,
yeah,
And some of them took it, and it was they just did it. But others, like I said, it can grab you. These things are
yeah,
dangerous. Drugs are dangerous. They can grab you in a hold, and you get addicted. And there's
yeah,
nothing you can do about it. It's very hard to get out of addiction. Very
yeah,
hard to beat addiction. Never mind try to do what you're doing while addicted, and that's where accidents happen.
yep,
But it's great that you never kind of went into that because, like I said, you never know where that you would have ended up. Probably not there, not sitting with 2 titles. Not in the
mm,
shape that sure. That's
yeah,
amazing shape. You put a lot of work into it. I watch your workouts. I see your progress in gym. You share your meals sometimes. Clean eating, and that is another key to it. Clean eating. You'll see guys. They're like, I'm doing all this, but I eat McDonald's and Burger King
yeah,
alternatively. Monday. Every day. And it's like. I don't want to be the one to tell you, but all that other stuff you're doing, what you're reading is just like kind of negated everything. I'm sorry to
yeah.
tell you. Eat good for source food and whole foods and whole grains and all that stuff is very important part of the key too.
Oh yeah, and natural products like natural healing stuff and all that, and like holistic. I believe in holistic medicine, and it's worked out for me. And like this stuff here, it's pain buster cream.
Yep.
So a friend of mine makes it. It's 500 grams of CBD, and
Yep.
stuff works great. And if I have a pain or something, I put it on 2 minutes later, it's gone. You know what I mean? And plus the massage, like I said, little therapeutic things, whatever, and
Yeah.
like stuff like that. So you always take care of your body. Don't ignore things, and because
I
it'll
mean,
come back.
my name, the Versace Stunner, but I mean, there's more to cannabis people don't understand than just smoking and getting
Yeah,
high and having a fun time and laughing. Very, very medicinal right now. It's a great actual alternative to a lot of the pain medicine.
oh
It's out non-addictive. And there is such, high CBD stuff that you're not going to feel so much psychoactive, but it's going to take down the inflammation in you. It's going to bring down the pain. It's going to make you be able
mhm.
to move your joints a little bit better. I've had topical creams too. I've gone into dispensaries to help with knees and my legs and stuff. And these things can do wonders for you. I'm all for the natural remedies. I recommend people try natural remedies. I know some people get skittish. It's like, no, it'll help, and if it doesn't help, you didn't lose anything. It's not going to hurt you because it's natural. It's not going to. It's
Yeah,
not going to poison you. It's not going to poison your body. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
Yeah, I use that oil, THC oil, I think it's called, whatever. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
had a golf ball size cyst on my neck, and I was there for a while. And my friend said, "Try this." It's like, all right, I got nothing to lose. I put it on, and a couple months went away completely. Started getting smaller and smaller, and I'm
Yeah.
like, wow. And then to be honest, that for us for a while, I thought it's like, oh, that's all bullshit. It's just for them an excuse to get high and stuff, right? So one day I went to the state house. They had a rally to try to legalize marijuana and all that, right? I went there as a reporter at the time, and I'm actually talking, getting people's testimonies and all that. I'm like, wow, it's like it made me think. It's like, wow, you know what? I had a wrong approach on this because there was firefighters there, was people from all walks of life there, saying how the CBD stuff like that helped them. And my friend Dennis, he's in the military, got poisoned and everything else, and so he went from 26 medications, and oh man, they were doing all kinds of bad stuff to him, and he went from 26 medications down to none, and he was taking the CBD and all that stuff, and it made him more healthy. It's like wow, and
Yeah,
the
I mean,
soul
it
food.
works. No, what really changed it for me, I mean, as a kid, I didn't really smoke much.
Yeah,
Um, I did get into some drinking a little bit, and then I found out that wasn't the coolest thing either. Had its own set of problems. But with the cannabis, I started seeing things where I started seeing people being treated for seizures with it, and like
yeah,
it's starting to do wonders with people with post traumatic stress and other kind of anxiety disorders. That in this day and age, people just want to throw pills at you for, and it's like,
yeah,
okay, well, let me try to give this a chance. 'Cause I've tried all their pills, I've tried all their bullshit, and to be honest with you, I'm not for it. It just leads into something else that you need
yep,
later on. It's all a big scam in my eyes. It's all one big circle. They'll give you something for something else, and then just so they can sell you something else and get you back
yep,
into the loop of it. So like, I started with the cannabis, and I started talking to my other doctor, and they're like, "How's this working for your illness?" I'm like, "Way better than the other thing." And they're like, "Cool. Why don't you just stick with that then?" um,
that's awesome.
is it for everybody? No, I don't recommend it for everybody. There's probably some people that could, if you're gonna abuse something, you're gonna abuse anything.
Yeah,
Um, it could be any, people out there that abuse, ibuprofen if they want to. But can it help? Yeah, sure. It's something again to worth it. I don't push on anybody, though, and
yeah,
but it's something that's helped me personally. It's helped me, do a few things, not just physicality, but mentality too, and help me overcome a few things, social anxieties, other things that I dealt with over the years, and just been like a tool for that. But yeah, it is something now that's kind of being used in sports medicine. I've seen, the CBD too, especially, to bring down because it does bring down the inflammation, and that's
mm,
what the source of most pain injury is inflamed. So if you can get that inflammation down, then you can get some of that pain down.
yeah, and it works great. That stuff there, and I'm like completely sold out. I mean, I don't smoke anything, so I never smoked in my life. So, but I'll take like the topical cream, you know, what I mean, stuff like that, or oil if I need it, and only
Yeah,
when I need it, whatever the case. And but yes, just try to stay flexible and do those extra things that in the house, like it just to stay active. You know what I mean? It's once in a while it's good to lay around for the day, whatever. But other than that, get up and do something. Go for a walk or whatever the case. And that's what keeps me going. And plus I still got that passion. It's like when I first started wrestling. I got that passion for the just to be in the ring to compete, and to show put on a good show for the people, and it's great even to this day. Like when I look in the crowd, it's those small kids. I remember when I was that small kid looking at these wrestlers and the magic that was in my eyes, and I want to put that magic in those kids' eyes, and it's awesome. It's like it's worth more than money. Like the last show we did, we had a bunch of kids. They were cheering me and everything, and to me, that's gold. You know what I mean? And it's like, wow, I'm actually touching these kids' lives for them to share me. You know what I mean? And
that's
so
what it's all about, though. And I
yeah,
mean, just think about if you're fast, you're backtracking. You were once one of them kids cheering for,
yep,
Hulk Hogan, saying, "Hey, I want to be like him." You could be, somebody that one of these kids say, "Hey, I want to be like, Dan," and he's gonna now, grow up to be a pro wrestler, and
yeah,
because you wrestle somewhere and be like, "Wow, I really like this dude." That got me into this, and that's the cool thing. I mean, you wrestlers, you are role models for a lot of people, not just
mhm,
even kids. There's adults that look up to you
yeah,
all too.
oh yeah,
Wrestling's not an age inclusive thing. Everybody watches wrestling.
And the cool thing, like I brought up at the beginning of the show with the titles here, you know what I mean? And and even though we know how the wrestling's work and all that, but still, it's like when you get introduced into the ring, as a champion, whatever case, or you win a championship, it's still that, it's a magical feeling, it really is. It's like, because again, it goes back to your childhood. It's like, wow, I want to be that someday, like Hulk Hogan winning the championship at WrestleMania or something like that. And, you always visioned that, you know what I mean? And so then how cool would it be to walk down the ring with a championship belt, you know what I mean? And, even as a wrestler, it's like the mock takes over, the fan takes over. And it's like it's a great feeling. It's not just a weight in the bag, and you know what I mean. It's just a great feeling to
and then, like you said, and at the other point, on the business end of it, you've been trusted as the face of a company. You've been, they believe in you enough to put a title. They think that you have what it takes to be that champion, and that's on the business side of it too. So I mean, either way, it's a great feeling because it's something to be really proud of. You don't just walk into a company. Well, I'm going to be champion now, and they're just going to say, oh, yeah, cool, you have a cool gimmick, here's your belt. It's like, no, there's a line of people that they trust way before you.
Yeah. And you got to earn your way, too. You got to pay your dues. That's another thing a lot of people don't understand in the business. You got to pay your dues. When you come into a company, like when I come into Showcase Pro Wrestling, I didn't expect to win championships off the bat. And all those years experience, but I'm new into this company. I'm the new fish in the sea, and so I had to work my way up. I'm going to sit there, help out ring crew if I needed. They need me. I'm going to pay my dues, you know what I mean, and do what I have to do. And the thing is, the best advice I give to people when you go to a new league or if you come into the business, just keep your mouth shut and do what you're told. Don't bitch. If the promoter says, hey, I need you to put this guy over in 2 minutes, you go out there and put that guy over in 2 minutes, the best of your ability. Don't bitch about it. Don't complain about it. Do what the promoter wants you to do. And they see that, you know what I mean? And every promotion I've been into, I've ended up literally winning at least 2 or 3 championships in that promotion. The ones I worked for, Triple Crown champion. I think I got several promotions as a Triple Crown champion because I went in there, just did what I was told. Some nights, you don't like it if you have to go out there and lose to a guy in 2 minutes. You know what I mean? But we all have to deal with it. Then the next thing you know, you're the one in the main event winning championships. So just put your dues in. That's all. And it doesn't matter how old you are. Like I'm still relatively new into Showcase. And I know my time will come. You know what I mean? But right now,
the dues don't really end. You kind of, you're always paying dues. You don't just become one day I'm a bad. I don't have to do dues anymore. It's like, no, you're part of the industry. The dues are just kind of, like your yearly tax. It's like, to kind of do it. And you hear different people. You'll see people be like, "Nah, I ain't gonna help with the ring. I'm past that point." It's like, well, are you? Why are you and not this guy? Because you see people like Jimmy Hart, who's been in the industry forever, breaking down the ring. Yep. So it's like, how are you better than him?
Yeah, exactly.
You're not. It's ego. It's like you don't want to be seen doing what you consider remedial things. But the truth is, without those remedial things done, there is no industry.
Yeah. And even Virgil, God did rest his soul before he passed away, but he was at shows helping out the ring when they needed it. You know what I mean? And everybody does that, and like that's how people who have respect for the business, and you always got to pay your dues no matter what. You know what I mean? Like and it shows dedication to the company. If you're paying your dues, you're not bitching about it. You're doing what you're told. The promoters love that because this guy's a loyal person, and we're gonna look at him for a possible push in the future. And when the time comes, this guy's ready because he paid his dues. He's been here for a while, so let's give this guy a chance and see where it goes. And that's how I end up having a lot of championships. I had 30 championships so far in my career.
Well, congratulations! It's a great outlook, though. It's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
General. We are just about out of time, but I did want to ask you, where can folks find you if they want to find you on social? Where can they follow you?
On my page, Bionic Dan Bidondi. It's my Facebook page. I'm gonna get my website back pretty soon, but Daniel Bidondi. It's my real name, whatever the case. But Dan Bidondi. You'll find me all over YouTube, social media. I'm in the media stuff too, and all that stuff. So you find a lot of crazy things like conspiracy stuff, but that's what I do on the side and everything else. But the wrestling stuff, you just go to Bionic Dan Bidondi or Bionic Bull Dan Bidondi. You'll find my Facebook page, and I always post where I'm going to be at wrestling and everything else.
Yeah. That's great. I've seen some of the conspiracy stuff's cool. Again, though, it's a whole nother market. Me, I like professional wrestling, and if I'm doing pro wrestling, it's like the cute about that. What people do outside the ring.
I don't blame you.
Unless you're out there hurting people or hurting children, that's on you. Your beliefs are your beliefs. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
you're one of those people that you can believe what you want to believe.
Mm.
It doesn't. It's not a conflict of interest with pro wrestling, as I see it.
Oh yeah, because the business, man. You got all kinds of people in pro wrestling, man. You got nuts and all kinds of crazy people. I'm one of them too. You know what I mean? But yeah, and there's no normal person. Here's the thing too. I want to before you go. My trainer Dave Souza, Savannah Souza. When the first day I met him at the PA hall, the trainer, right? He's like, "Why do you want to be a wrestler?" I'm like, because like something I always want to do since I was a kid. He goes, "Let me tell you something. Excuse my language, guys." He said just like this. He said, "I'm going to tell you what." He looked me at. He goes, "You got to be one demented motherfucker, stupid moron. Every name in the book." He said to be a pro wrestler, and I'm like. Then he goes, "That's why I've been doing it for 40 years." He said, "Yeah, so you got to be one deranged person to be a professional, and you do. You really do. To put your body through that kind of abuse and the stuff you go through because these scars here, I mean, they're legit scars. There's no, blood packs or nothing like that. It's not
No,
most of
you
them by
get hurt,
accident.
you get hurt. Something happens, it happens. It's stuck
I
with
had
you.
concussions,
And
all kinds of stuff, man.
even as
And
much as you can prepare, injuries take place. And things can go just a millisecond off, and it's like, oh, I'm cut now. I'm going to get stitches.
yeah, he goes, "You got to be one stupid moron to want to be a wrestler." And I'm like, then he goes, "That's why, I'm still doing it 40 years later." It's like, yeah, you got to be demented up there. You got to have some screws loose in your head to be a professional wrestler. And that's why I've been doing it for 30 years because I got some screws loose. We all do, you know what I mean? But it's great. And it's worth the sacrifice. I mean, you put your body through stuff not even stuntmen in Hollywood do. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't understand. Oh, it's fake. Is it really fake? Yeah. Is it really fake? Yeah, the matches are choreographed. Yeah. But you're still taking the bumps. You still get, I mean, nowadays, too, we're laying stuff in. Like me and Matt Thompson, right? We had a show last week. And every time me and him work, we stiff the shit out of each other. Chop and punch, we lay everything in. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't see
Go
that. They
like
don't.
strong style, yeah. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
There's other styles of wrestling where the shots are a little bit more
Yeah.
realistic. And no matter what, if you're going through a table, you're going through a table.
Yeah.
You're getting thrown out of a ring. Guess what? You're getting thrown out of a ring. Whether you know how to land or not doesn't really matter. You're still feeling a pump on the ground.
Like I told my
I've seen
opponents.
people's heads flop like
Yeah.
fish. This wrestling is painful. I've been in there. I don't even think a lot of the fans know running against the ropes 3 or 4 times. It's gonna bruise the under your arms.
Yeah.
Incredible, because it's not an elastic band. It's a real hard cable.
Like I told my opponents, that it's like if you don't lay it in, I'm not going to sell. Plain and simple. You chop me like a wimp. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sell it. You know what I mean? I lay my stuff in hard as I can, especially chops. Because a man, you should be able to take a club or a clothesline or a chop real hard. Because if you're not in shape for that, you don't belong in the ring. That's my opinion on that. But I mean, yeah. And I told me if you don't lay the clothesline in, whatever, I'm not taking it. You gotta really put some effort into it, and that's the way it should be. Because like me and Matt Thompson, matches, right? We make people like because everybody's flipping around the ring. Me and him just laying stuff in, like flesh tearing off, and people just like,
Well, it's like pro football. Pro football. Nobody's killing each other out there, but they're for damn hitting each other. They're
yeah,
full impact tackles. They're trying to see who the bigger person is, and there is that physicality that's really taking place. And
yeah.
to have that kind of matchup in wrestling and to really see the guys kind of put it in. Hey, let's have a little. We'll see who's a little bit tougher right now. And to kind of get that realism into it, it takes it to another level. But it also brings it back to when I feel like pro wrestling was, where these guys would go in the ring and say, "Well, let's see who's tougher."
Well, look at Gunther and Sheamus. Remember when they wrestled?
Yeah,
That was beautiful. Because they did what nobody else is doing. You know what I mean? It's just like really tearing to each other. That was beautiful. That's the style I like to bring the ring. This hardcore stuff. I like to come home with marks on me. I'm a nut. I'm a weirdo man, but I like to come home with marks on me, bruises. Probably Rick Fuller. When he used to chop I wrecked him like 15 times in a row. I think it was once, and every week I had a handprint on my chest, like flesh coming off and everything. It was disgusting.
just wore them like battle wounds,
Yep.
like trophies. That's great. That's great. But again, I thank you for coming on. Sharing all these stories and your career. It's been great. We got a lot to look forward to seeing you. I'll be looking for those links and see what you're doing as you travel out of the New England territory. That's very exciting. Again,
Yeah.
congratulations on that.
Oh, thank
and
you,
we'll
man.
be seeing you around Showcase in New England area.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
And thank you everybody at home for watching. And as always, support indie wrestling. Versace Stoner out.